What's up guys, Darkbreaker here. In today's video with the new tier list for patch 4.4B, we have massive changes, and as you guys can see, we have so many champions in wildrift, and you guys want to know which champions are the best for each role. I will talk about it, and I'm gonna explain to you guys how all the changes from the new patch and the new champion server are gonna affect the meta. So, as you guys can see, patch 4.4B is out by now. We have so many changes, champion changes. Darius, Ezreal, Galio, Hakram, Aurelia, Jinx, Karma, Lulu, Nunu, Pantheon, Renekton, Riven, Swain. On top of that, we have item changes as well. Bloodthirster getting nerfed, Champunk getting buffed, Crystalline Reflector getting buffed, Immortal Sheepbo getting buffed, Morello getting buffed, and then also Trinity Force, a big change. Trinity Force got also buffed, and on top of that we have Kraken Slayer getting buffed, plus Ice Dragon. But Kraken Slayer, Trinity Force is gonna make champions like Ezreal, Aurelia so strong. And then the Trinity buff is gonna make champions like Fiora, Camille, Darius, or other champions that like to run Trinity Force, Ezreal as well, Jax as well, for example, Vi, for example, as well. All of those champions are gonna become even better. And as always, I provide you with my tier list, my personal opinion about how the meta changed. I've played pretty much all the buff champions already. I can show you like a little history of me smurfing with the buff champions. But yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy this tier list. I was about to say gameplay. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Grab some coffee, or grab your drink, or maybe have some food, because the video's gonna be long. It's gonna be an in-depth explanation about why I'm rating each champion a certain way and why they are good, or what makes them good. Starting with the Baron lane, then jungle, then mid lane, ADC, and support. There will be timestamps for you guys as well, so if you guys are lazy and you guys just want to see immediately the where I'm rating the champions, and then feel free to do that. And if you guys want to see the explanation, then just listen to it like kind of like a podcast. On top of that, I just want to remind you guys, within the same tier, like let's say within the S tier, I have Fiora as the first in the left row, right? It doesn't mean that she's the best in the same tier. So people understand that. And remember, it's an orientation for you guys. It doesn't necessarily mean you can play, you can't be Nasus OTP to challenge. Obviously you can. It's just an orientation about what I think is good, what works the best. But you do you can play whatever you want. It's more about being a master of the champion, knowing how to play the game, understanding macro, etc. But enough talking about this, let's get started with the Baron lane tier list. So for Baron lane, pick of the patch is, in my opinion, still Aatrox. This champion is busted. They also buffed Champunk. People told me I should pronounce it Champunk. Chainsword got buffed, making him even better and more tanky. But yeah, this champion has a lot of sustain, a lot of damage, a lot of crowd control, and it's just super beefy. And you guys will see when a fat Aatrox is running you down and he's just low life and then he gets full HP again, then you'll realize, Darkbreaker, you're right. And next one is gonna be Darius. I've played Darius, and I have to say the addition damage and the addition damage he has on the passive is massive. On top of that, Trinity Force got buffed, and on top of that, his healing on the first ability is also better right now. So Darius is actually very good against melee champions. In the 1v1, Darius is very good against most champions. He struggles more in against ranged champions or high mobility champions that have a lot of crowd control. So this is like the little nitpick I have about Darius, but honestly in the latest video I've played on him, I was playing against a very hard comp and it still made him work, so I changed my opinion. He can be very hard in those against those team comps, but overall he's super tanky. He has a lot of sustain. He has very good carry potential when he gets a reset to carry team fights. So I do think Darius is S+ tier, but be mindful about when to pick him. Akali is one of the best AP assassins in the game. She's just one-shotting people, and her 1v1 is also insane. And then we have Garen. Garen is a very beginner-friendly champion that is super tanky and is good in the 1v1 and provides or is a very good frontline in teamfights as well. Very similar explanation for Ornn as well. Ornn is a champion that has high crowd control. He's very beefy. He has very good playmaking teamfights as well. And even in the 1v1 he's doing fine. Gwen is a champion that is in the early game not the strongest, but she's one of the best late game hyper carry champions in the game that has true damage and tons of sustain. Now we have Camille. Camille, in my opinion, also with the Trinity, is also getting better if you're playing against non-Sandra champions, but otherwise I would recommend Sandra most of the times against other Sandra champions. But yeah, this champion has very good speed pushing, great catch potential, and high mobility. Great catch potential because of the ultimate. Now next one is gonna be Vladimir. Vladimir is one of the best, I mean I say it a lot, but some of those champions are just insane hyper carry champions, and that's why I consider them as plus tier. Same for Vladimir. He has a lot of sustain and he has the second ability to survive a lot of shit, and then he has so much sustain and damage in the late game. Gragas very versatile, has a lot of damage and can be played as a tank as well. Jax, one of the best split pushers and one of the strongest 1v1 late game champions as well. Fiora, honestly she got buffed in the last patch, and in this patch Trinity Force got buffed as well, making her even better, but I feel like she still needs a little bit of edge to put her into S plus tier, because she's very hard to play and she's very hard to make work in team fights, but her dual power is excellent. Next one is gonna be Aurelia. Aurelia with those buffs: Kraken Slayer buff, Trinity buff, passive buff, third ability buff, making her so strong right now. But at the same time, she still has matchups where she can struggle against. So Aurelia in the right hands can be godly, especially when she's snowballing. But she's obviously kind of champion that needs to know which champion she's facing against. Like, I think if she's playing against the Jax, I don't think she can win against Jax, for example. Next one is going to be Renekton. Renekton received another buff. His ultimate is getting better. Kraken Slayer also got buffed, so Renekton becoming even better. Honestly, you might put him into like between S and S+, but I just feel like for S+, the problem is his late game carry potential. The late game carry potential, because he's a champion that falls off in the late game. And I think the reason why they keep buffing Renekton is, yes, he's winning the early game, yes, he's good in the mid game, but he falls off in the late game. And that's why his average win rate is probably not as high. And that's why I'm thinking they are buffing him, because he is losing games even though he's dominating in the early mid game. That's why they're trying to make him better. Riven also receiving a buff onto the passive and onto the second ability. Very good, giving Riven even more damage, high mobility champion with tons of damage. Jace is an excellent lane bully with tons of poking damage, but he kinda falls off in the late game. Yasuo is an excellent teamfight orientated champion with a lot of playmaking potential and one of the strongest late game scaling champions as well. With the right team comp, this champion can shine, especially tank Yasuo has been very popular and is really strong right now. Yone is also, though his brother is also really good. One of the strongest late game. I say this a lot, but these champions are just strong late game. What can I say? He's a strong late game champion with a lot of mobility and playmaking potential. In the early game, even then he can trade very fine and has very good 1v1 potential. Zed is excellent in teamfights and is beefy. Wukong has a lot of sustain, is excellent in teamfights thanks to his ultimate that can knock up multiple people. Shen with the global ultimate joining teamfights is very good, and then he has the taunt for some playmaking, catching people, or like peeling for people. Dr. Mundo, surprisingly, in the 1v1 super strong. He's very beefy and a great frontliner in teamfights. Malphite is an excellent counter against physical damage compositions because he can stack armor, and his ultimate is super good in teamfights. I mean, if you land a 5-man ultimate knocking people up, you're kinda just winning the game basically. Next one, we have Sion. Sion is an excellent frontliner and also good at split pushing, provides a lot of crowd control. For A tier, we have Swain. Swain got buffed, but I think Swain in the Baron lane, he has a lot of hard matchups. And he needs a lot of time to scale. I think he needs like 3 items and he just keeps stacking. So what they did on Swain is they buffed the HP stacking mechanic from the passive, and they buffed the ultimate doing, I think, more damage, if I'm not wrong. Oh, they buffed the AP scaling. They nerfed the damage, but they buffed the AP scaling in general. So yeah, late game he's even stronger now. So Swain, if he's allowed to get into late game having like 4 or 5 items, he will do more damage, he will have more healing, and obviously he will have more HP stacking. And the main reason why I'm putting Swain in the Baron lane is because yeah, he has a lot of hard matchups, but he can also try to farm up safely from far away, try to clear the wave, and just AFK farm, trying to get strong and then join teamfights, becoming a tanky beef with a lot of crowd control. Oh, I just remembered, I forgot someone. This guy is actually viable. I just forgot something. I just remembered I wanted to put him in. Yeah, Teemo, the Satan himself, very strong lane bully, and late game with the guerrilla tactic, just assassinating people. And then he has the shrooms. Damage value across the objectives can be very good, but it also can be pretty easy punished if you play against a good jungler. Zed is a champion that has a lot of bad matchups in the Baron lane, and on top of that, very matchup reliant, but obviously he has, with the right skill set, with the right skill ceiling, if you're like good mechanically on Zed, you can definitely make him work against a few champions, especially if you're playing like a Teemo or Cannon or against some other champions, you can definitely outplay them. Cannon, strong lane bully, excellent team fights. Akshan, very strong lane bully, good in the late game, but easy to punish as well. Pantheon, strong early game, good in the 1v1, global ultimate to join teamfights, but falls off in the mid and late game, or should I say more late game. Urgot, strong in the early game, kind of falls off then, good against tanks because of his percentage damage, very good playmaking and frontline in teamfights. Volibear, also champion, kind of matchup reliant, but overall he is beefy, he has a lot of sustain, he has good diving potential for team fights. Singed is weak in the early game, but he scales super hard into the late game. He has a lot of playmaking potential, that's why I'm putting in B tier. Trinimir, Grace and Nasus, I mean, they are all, I would say, not that strong in the early game against a lot of matchups. Against some matchups they are not as weak, but these champions need a lot of farming to work. 3+ items. They need to scale before they can be good in teamfights. Okay, sorry. Let's continue with the jungle part of this video. For the pick of the patch, Kha'Zix, my signature jungle pick. This champion is so good, and let me list you why. He has one of the best assassination potentials in the game. He's just one-shotting people left and right. He has excellent jungle control, especially for objectives, thanks to a single target isolation damage. Then his ganks are really good thanks to his stealth. He has the jump reset mechanic, and he can just flank around and just kite people. And then his power farming, after the first item, I would say, he can power farm very quickly through the jungle, getting so much gold. And once you have like the evolved, once you have like once you have like the maxed out ultimate where you have 3 evolved abilities, he is so good in the late game against any composition. That's what makes him so good. He's good against any compositions. Against squishy compositions, easy peasy. Even against tanky compositions, you can just run Bruiser Kha'Zix and he's still good. Kempunk got also buffed, so you can use Cerulea plus Kempunk, making him an excellent choice. Yeah, against more tanky compositions, using maybe a Black Cleaver, maybe Sterox Gauge as well. But this champion has like the whole package, what makes junglers good in solo queue. Let's move on to Lee Sin. Lee Sin is a champion that is so good because of his playmaking potential in the early game. This champion is a fast tempo, spam ganking jungler with tons of mobility and insane one-shot potential. The only problem I have with this champion is that he kinda, I say in quotes, struggles against more tanky compositions with crowd control, but you can still make it work if you go for more like a Bruiser, Lee Sin build with maybe a Black Cleaver, Divine Sunderer, Darkgage, Twingard, etc. But he shines more or better against more squishy champions because obviously you can just one-shot them easier. But yeah, if you guys want to know which champions I ban Lee Sin and Yuumi the most because I don't play Lee Sin that often myself, and I hate playing against Lee Sin because people are always feeding against Lee Sin and he's just pressuring the whole map and he's just controlling the whole early game too much, or he's just snowballing too hard. That's why I'm banning Lee Sin. And then obviously Yuumi, you guys know Yuumi. Yuumi is a shit champion, just delete her. Anyways, next one's gonna be Evelynn. Evelynn, a very similar explanation as Lee Sin. That she has one of the fastest jungle clears to get level 5. I think at like 135 or something she's already level 5, and then she has the stealth factor, and then she can just one-shot people very easily. Kayn, especially, I don't know why, but Kayn is becoming, I mean, I do know why. Kayn with the new Husky skin becoming super popular, and I have to say, blue Kayn is farming low elos so easily. Like the moment you have blue form, you're just one-shotting everyone. Like you have so many good lethality items right now. Like Yumu's is excellent. Dustblade got also buffed. Dustblade on Kayn is so good. You can even run Manamir for scaling if you guys want. You can run Essence Reaver, Collector, Serpent's Fang, whatever you want. Blue Kayn just demolishing solo queue. And on top of that, if they are tanky, you can just go Red Kayn to counter them with the percentage damage. I do have to say though that he might be inconsistent against humans. Sorry to say it that way, but if people know how to not play aggressive in the early game and deny him from getting free stacks, then yes, if you get blue Kayn too late, then that's a big problem. Like but even if you get blue Kayn late, you might still be able to carry the game because this champion just scales so hard and just has so much mobility and assassination potential. But you guys can tell me in the comments, which jungler do you hate the most to play against? I don't know, I hate Kha'Zix as well. If I play against Kha'Zix, like I know I'm abusing Kha'Zix myself, but if I have to play against a good Kha'Zix and I'm not jungling, and I'm like a laner and Kha'Zix just, I don't know, I hate all of them. I hate all of them. Like in this tier, I hate all of them. Pick of the patch, S tier, I hate S plus tier, I hate all of them. Diana also. If Diana gets fed, she's just one-shotting you. She has high mobility, burst damage, assassination power. Then also Gragas. Gragas, great poking damage, great one-shot potential. Aatrox, I already talked to you about him. This champion is reloaded. Good damage, high sustain, very tanky. Next one for S tier. These champions that got buffed right here, I put them in first because I want to talk about them first. It doesn't mean they are better than the others. But Riven got buffed, and she is so good right now thanks to the passive buff. High mobility burst damage champion. Next one, Darius, I already explained it. Trinity, passive buff, and first ability buff. Yeah, Darius jungle is so underrated. I know, I mean, I don't know why he's not that popular in the jungle, but his jungle key is really good. He has good ganks, he has good carry potential, he has a lot of damage. In this, I've played Darius for YouTube videos soon. I'm not sure when you guys are gonna see it. I was going for more tanky, but you can run Trinity Collector. Trinity Collector, try it out. That combo is insane on Darius. You're just one-shotting people. Just pew, 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 execute, execute, execute. Next one is gonna be Aurelia. Aurelia, I mean, I already explained to you, insane assassin right now in this game. Trinity, Kraken Slayer, she's just so good right now. Try it out for yourself. High mobility champion with great playmaking potential. Nunu with the buff, actually insane tank with spam ganking capabilities, just ganking left and right. He's super beefy, has a lot of crowd control, and they buffed the damage and the healing that he has. Fiddlesticks is still an amazing teamfight champion thanks to his ultimate, can single-handedly carry a game when he lands a good ultimate. Yone kind of slow in the early game, needs to focus on farming, that's why in the jungle he can obviously focus on farming and scale himself. And then late game, he's one of the strongest late game champions. Morgana, one of the best jungle clears and excellent team fights. Thanks to her poking damage, thanks to her kiting capabilities, thanks to the black shield to help your carries out, and then the ultimate obviously to stun multiple people. Wukong, excellent at ganking, a lot of sustain, and amazing ultimate. Fizz is an amazing assassin. The problem is his jungle clear, the first jungle clear is not that good, but once he has like 2-3 items, this little fishy is OP. Then we have Jarvan. Jarvan, I think I do like Jarvan lethality more than the Bruiser or tanky build, because Jarvan lethality can carry games harder, but if you guys have to, you can obviously play him full tank as well. He has really good damage, he has an excellent ganker in the early game, like starting level 2 already, then he has a lot of playmaking potential and crowd control in team fights. Jace, just super strong in the early game, very good poking damage on top of that. Pantheon is an excellent ganker in the jungle that has a lot of burst damage, and with the crit build he can just one-shot people, and he does fall off in the full late game, but before the full late game he's still very strong and can just assassinate people left and right, and obviously with the ultimate he can gank a lot. Volibear is a very beefy champion with a lot of sustain and great diving potential for dives or during ganks. Then we have Hecarim. Hecarim got a massive nerf, but I still think he's S tier because, yeah, he has a lot of mobility on the map. That's the biggest advantage that Hecarim has. He has a lot of mobility to gank left and right on the map and snowball, because the wildrift map is pretty small, and obviously he's still tanky and he still has decent amount of damage. I think you just run him Bruiser build, don't run him lethality or like full one-shot build. Shyvana got buffed in the last patch, and I think she is a very good champion that needs to focus on power farming, needs to understand which objectives to go for, needs to understand when to counter gank, countering a gank, because you going or initiating a gank most of the times, unless your opponents are giga interested or overextended, doesn't work out. Focus on farming, scale up, and then you carry, because I almost always win on this champion. I am the Shyvana OG main. I made this champion in season 2 of League of Legends PC, by the way. Like, it got me into top 100. This champion is really good still. No, next is gonna be Vi. Vi, obviously, excellent jungle clear. One of the fastest jungle clears. Really good ganks with the first ability, with the ultimate. She's beefy, she has a lot of damage. Very similar to a Xin Zhao. Beefy, a lot of sustain, great ganks, you name it. Olaf, great at countering crowd control and tanky compositions, thanks to his ultimate and thanks to his true damage, and he has a lot of sustain. Shen is a tanky champion in the jungle that can use the ultimate to counter gank, and with the taunt he has some nice playmaking as well. Amumu, what makes him strong is his ultimate in teamfights. Ramos, what makes this champion strong is that he's tanky, he's an excellent counter against physical damage, and he is a great frontliner, and he can spam gank in the early game left and right a lot thanks to his first ability. Dr. Mundo is a great frontline with decent jungle clear speed, and obviously in teamfight he's a very good frontliner. Echo scales support into the late game, one-shots everyone. Alnila, when she has 3 items in team fight with the right team comp, maybe you have an enchanter, maybe you have someone who initiates for you, you're just running everyone down, having so much sustain and damage. Twitch ADC. I would recommend you guys to run Twitch AD now, after they nerfed AP, but Twitch jungle, what makes him good is his stealth, because he can just gank left and right for free, getting free kills and snowballing. And then in the late game, he still does so much damage, even though they nerfed the AP and his jungle kill speed. He was never a farming champion. He was always a champion that is reliant on ganking idiots. Ganking overextended idiots with the stealth factor. That's why champions like Kha'Zix, Evelynn are so good. And Twitch, he falls into the same category. Next one, Fiora. Fiora, yeah, Trinity buff definitely helps her, obviously. It's gonna make her stronger. Then she's an excellent duelist in the 1v1. But yeah, problem is team fighting. Team fighting is not that good, and she's very hard to play, honestly. I think I have 800 games on Fiora, and I still have times where, like, if you don't play her all the time, because she's your champion, you have to play her all the times, or your mechanics get rusty. Because she's a very mechanical champion. You need to predict abilities to use your parry against them. You need to have good micromanagement, so mechanically you need to hit your vitals perfectly in teamfights. And in teamfights, when everyone is like clustered around, like 5 vs 5, it's so hard to play a good Fiora in teamfights. Unless you're like turbo fighting and just one-shotting everyone, but let's say on even conditions, carrying on a Fiora is very, very hard. That's why I'm just putting her A tier. Camille, with the ultimate, obviously, excellent ganker. Scaled support into the late game, but her early game is shit. First jungle clear, early game shit. Gwen, jungle clear, shit. Late game, excellent. Zed, high skill ceiling, but high skill ceiling, snowball reliant champion. Akshan, very cheesy champion, similar to Twitch, but not as good. Urgot, good jungle clear, good ganker. He is beefy in teamfights and has decent carry potential, or decent playmaking potential. Then we have Rengar. Rengar's a champion that has insane one-shot potential. I mean, he can be 10-0 or he can be 0-10. That's why I'm putting him 8 here, because he's coin flip. It's coin flip champion. I can put Master Yi as well. Master Yi and Rengar are just coin flip champions. If Master Yi gets fed, he just runs everyone down, but obviously you can still get crowd control against him. Or like if you have crowd control, you can still deny him from carrying games. Graves is too scaling. He needs a lot of items. He needs to power farm, very similar to a Shyvana. But he's not as good as power farming as a Shyvana, for example. But obviously when he has 3 items late game, or 4 items, 5 items, he's starting to get really strong and just crit everyone down. Yasuo, also very scaling champion, but late game obviously super good. Lilia, very scaling champion, but in team fights, her ultimate is obviously insane. She has a lot of mobility, and if you go Liandry, you can counter tanks as well, thanks to your percentage damage. Kayle is one of the best late game champions, but at the same time she is also one of the weakest early game champions, and she needs to focus on scaling. Nautilus is a champion that is decent at everything, I would say. Decent jungle clear speed, good tank, good crowd control, and good ganks. Pyke is very similar to Lee Sin, but not as good. His jungle clear is dog shit, but you wanna cheese people, trying to gank left and right and trying to snowball. Singed is pretty shit in the early game, but he has some nice cheesy gank potential and some good scaling into the late game and teamfight potential. Warwick, I just don't like this champion. I think he's just shit in the job. I just think he's shit in teamfights. His team fighting is dog shit even if you're snowballing. His ganks can be good with the ultimate, but I don't know. I just feel like if you play him yourself, you will understand what I mean with his team fights are shit. Trinity and Jax are very scaling, but obviously in the late game they are 2 of the best champions as well. But that's it for the jungle. Let's move on to mid lane. Okay guys, let's move on to pick of the patch in the mid lane. Don't forget, drink your coffee or your tea or your water. Let's go. Pick of the patch in the mid lane. Vladimir, still the same shitty vampire. That guy has too much sustain and way too much damage, and he's so hard to kill in teamfights. This champion is just god tier in late game. Like you can't deny it. It's just god tier in late game. God tier late game. Boom, done. No, don't argue with me against this. Don't. Vladimir broken. Next one, Aurelia. I already explained it. This champion is really good in the mid lane and way better in the mid lane in comparison to Baron lane, because she has a lot of good matchups here where she can just one-shot them and just, I mean, she's great assassin against squishy champions. So If you can dominate in the mid lane, you can snowball and then just try to extend it into the side lanes. Akali is one of the best AP assassins in the game, and on top of that, she's really good in team fights. Then we have Kassadin, one of the strongest late game scaling AP assassins with high mobility. Corki, excellent poking champion, really good in team fights thanks to his package. Annie with the ultimate is really good in team fights as well. A lot of playmaking potential with the flash ultimate or proto with ultimate combo. Next one is me, Lux. Lux, what does she have? She has a lot of poking damage, she has the bind, aka crowd control, she has a lot of shielding in teamfight as well, and a global ultimate to just snipe people. I already explained to you guys Diana, high mobility burst assassin, Yone, one of the best late game champions as well, same for Yasuo, very good in teamfights. Zed is an amazing assassin in the mid lane, very good in the 1v1. And on top of that, he scaled super hard into the late game, just being able to one-shot people. Karma got buffed. Her AP scalings are really good right now. Her ultimate hurts like a truck because they buffed it from 60% to 80%, if I'm not wrong. They reduced the cooldown of her main damaging ability, the first ability. They buffed the base damage of the ultimate and they put 20% ability power scaling on Karma. So full item with Karma is gonna hurt like a truck in the late game. Landing one ultimate, like everyone is bunching up on the Baron or the Elder, you land one ultimate, boom, 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 bye bye, bye bye, sayonara, baby. Next one, Galio. Galio also receiving a pretty significant buff, and you could argue with me and tell me, okay, this guy is S+ tier, and I wouldn't even argue back. I would say, yeah, I can see it. This champion is just so good right now. What makes him so good? He has great poking damage. On top of that, he has really good playmaking potential, and he's beefy, a beefy initiator, even though you're playing a tanky build. Especially if you go like Road of Age first item, it makes him beefy. And the second ability gives you a magic damage reduction as well. But yeah, he has the AoE taunt, he has a dash in, he dashes in, then he activates his taunt, or you can use the ultimate, the global ultimate, to join teamfights, shielding your allies and knocking everyone in that area up. So, as you guys can see, I'm a big fan of Galio mid lane players. Especially now they buffed this early game, making him much more beefy. More armor and more HP, making him even better against like champions like Yasuo or Yone, or even Zed or Jace that are popular in the mid lane. Swain got buffed, you guys already know, I already explained it. Very good champion in team fights, has a lot of crowd control and is tanky. Zoe has excellent poking damage. Katarina with unpredictability, that's how I would like to call it. You get one reset, and boom, you win the game. Congratulations, you're a Katarina main. Congratulations, you. Oh my god. I was about to say something bad, but I'm not gonna say it. Ari, high mobility, playmaking monster. With a charm. Charm, just one-shotting people. Like you're dashing forward, charm them, boom, they are one-shotted. Like one good charm before a teamfight can just auto-win the game. Because you create a 5 vs 4 situation if they don't have like Quicksilver Slash to cleanse the taunt, or the charm should I say, then it's just a bye-bye. Akshan, one of the strongest mid laners as well in terms of like early game, and then he just gank left and right. Twisted Fate with the ultimate, obviously insane, to snowball the game and control the map. Then he has the gold card, crowd control, Vex, fear mechanic, reset mechanic, really good poking damage, and she can just go in when she wants to. Orianna and Ziggs are great utility poking mages with good damage in team fights, but they need the right team comp. Fizz is an amazing assassin into the late game. Gragas, very consistent champion with a lot of playmaking potential and poke. Lucian, very strong early game champion, high mobility, skates like a truck into the late game as well. Veigar, not that strong, not that good in the early game, but he's very good in team fights thanks to his event horizon, and he scales super hard into the late game. Jace, super strong in the early game, great poking damage, but falls off in the late game. Garen, great tank, and is overall strong at every stage of the game. Riven got, like I said, got buffed. Kind of situational counter pick, I would say. You don't want to blind pick Riven mid lane, but it's more like a counter pick against some champions where you can just try to one-shot them. High mobility burst damage. Teemo mid lane with Guerrilla tactic obviously can work, but he has obviously a lot of bad matchups or hard matchups to play against. Brand in the mid lane, decent poking mage with lack of mobility. Echo is getting punished in the early game, I would say most of the times, against a lot of champions, and he's very scaling. Pyke, a very snowball reliant champion that doesn't have the greatest jungle, that doesn't have the greatest wave clear anymore, but he has great playmaking potential. Morgana is weak in the early game, but she can be very good poking and utility wise in teamfights. Aurelion Sol with his roams and his team fighting can be very good, but he's hard to play. Gwen to scaling, I would say overall, but yeah, I mean, if you get into 4-5 item zone, you can carry games pretty hard. Singe A tier. Singe used to be very meta in competitive, especially because of his playmaking potential in the early game, going for fights, going for skirmishes, and then in the late game, late game his potential to just run people down, to catch them is very good, and he's tanky, has a decent amount of damage as well. Cannon, good ultimate in team fights. Kai'Sa, very scaling. Pantheon, very early and mid game orientated, but he's good at like killing a lot of champions in the early mid game in the 1v1. Kayle benefits in the mid lane from having more freedom to farm up, or like the likelihood of her getting spam ganked and getting dove is not as high. Lilia is very scaling in the mid lane, I would say, and she will struggle to lane against a lot of champions. Same for Seraphine. She has too many bad matchups in the 1v1, and she is also a champion that can't really roam. Then she sucks in the 1v1, and her main condition is landing a good ultimate. So if you land a good ultimate, she can be very good in teamfights, obviously. But that's it for the mid lane, and let's hop right into ADC. Let's get started with the ADCs. Pick of the patch is gonna be the new champion Sivir. It doesn't necessarily mean that she's the best ADC, to be honest, because it's a hard choice for me. Kai'Sa and Marshvll are also really good. If I had to choose like a god tier, I would put those three on top, but I mean, obviously, Sivir, new champion, ADC, pick of the patch. Makes sense, right? But yeah, this champion, in my opinion, S+ tier, what makes her so good is having a spell shield built in and her ultimate. Her ultimate is broken. Her ultimate solo carries games because her ultimate gives everyone movement speed, makes it really good for kiting and for chasing people down. And you guys know that she has a reset mechanic on the ultimate. When you hit a champion, you get stacks, and at 8 stacks, so 4 auto attacks, you recast your ultimate and everyone is getting movement speed again. Do you understand how good this mechanic is in this or in wildrift? Just her ultimate makes her broken tier. Her ultimate in teamfight is just broken tier. Like, herself, I think she's pretty decent in the lane, and she's really good damage, and her ricochet allows her to do a lot of splash damage, and then the spell shield allows her to have a inbuilt Edge of Night / Old Banshee or Crown. But yeah, the ultimate makes her broken. The ultimate is the biggest part why she's really good, and I think her win rate is gonna be very high because she's easy to play. She's very easy to play. Press the ultimate, and the ultimate guarantees kinda teamfight win in the late game, especially. Kai'Sa, also one of the best ADCs in the meta right now, having insane isolation damage like an assassin, pretty much like a Kha'Zix damage terms of her first ability. Long range poke, stealth, attack speed steroid, ultimate to reposition and giving yourself a shield. Then we have Ezreal. Ezreal just getting massive buffs. Kraken Slayer got buffed. Trinity got buffed. His base attack damage got buffed. His first ability cooldown got reduced. So Ezreal is really good as well right now. Tristana, obviously one of the best late game carry champions. Jhin early game monster, and even in the late game his one-shot potential is insane. Lucian in the laning phase is one of the most dominant champions for bot lane, and he has high mobility and really good burst damage. And he still skates into the late game really good. Caitlyn, yeah, easy to play, high range, strong lane bully, and then very consistent across the board. And she's dominating almost every bot lane in the early game, especially. Corki, insane poking damage and really good in team fights. Neela and Samira, are both very good all-in champions. Like, Neela has so much sustain, mobility, and shielding, while Samira is like the Katarina of ADCs, jumping in, doing tons of AoE damage, and having lots of sustain as well. But obviously, these two are kind of reliant on having an initiator, so they can just follow. Saya, very decent ADC with good self-peel. Draven, super strong in the early game. A strong snowball reliant champion, Varus great utility wise and great poking damage. Ashe, decent utility thanks to her slow, thanks to her ultimate, but I feel like she doesn't do as much damage as other champions. Misfortune, excellent. Why do I have... Oops. I think, yeah, Misfortune is S tier. Misfortune is really good in the early game and her ultimate is excellent in team fights. Twitch, I'm not sure about Twitch by the way. Twitch could also be S tier, but I feel like his early game is very, very weak. But his late game, especially if you have enchanters, is super good. But this early game is pretty damn weak. Jinx, they kinda buffed her early game a little bit, but they nerfed the late game. I think it's overall a nerf for Jinx. Jinx, Vayne, and Zeri these three are pretty damn weak in the early game, so they will get bullied by a lot of duo combos. But in the late game, they are very good, especially if they have enchanters. Senna as ADC, I feel like she can't really... I feel like she's very scaling and doesn't do as much damage as other ADCs. That's why I'm putting a B tier. She's better as a support. Let's move on to support, guys. So for support, pick of the patch is still gonna be Yuumi. This champion is just absolutely broken. I mean, I've explained it every single patch. I explain it the same. Yeah, she's just too good at powering up a carry, and then that carry is just running everyone down. Pyke, excellent solo queue champion for playmaking potential. Then we have Thresh, very good playmaker as well. With the hook, with a lantern, with a fling, with the ultimate. Lux, obviously a great support, thanks to her poking damage, thanks to her utility with the shield and the bind. Soraka also with her healing, with the silence. Karma got buffed, making her poking damage and her ultimate really, really good. Lulu got nerfed, so her early game or her 2 versus 2 in the lane is much weaker. But the value that she provides, utility-wise in team fights, and especially buffing someone up is still the same. So that's why I still put the S+ here. But yeah, her early game is easier to punish right now, because they nerfed, I think, the armor, the base armor by 6, and also the early game damage. Oh no, it was the shielding amount. They nerfed the shielding amount in the early game. So yeah, her early game is weaker now, but overall, the utility she provides is still too good. Galio got buffed. But yeah, these champions right here, Galio, Alistar, Leona, Gragas, Rakan, and Nautilus, are all very good playmaking champions that are tanky, that have a lot of crowd control. And let's get started, I guess. Galio, what does he have? He has the AoE taunt, he has the global ultimate to join teamfights and knock people up. Alistar has AoE knockup, he can push people away, and his ultimate gives some damage reduction. Leona, single target stun, AoE stun on the ultimate, but it's a skill shot. Her second ability makes her tanky, and she can dash forward onto an enchanter and stun that person, and then you just run them down. So Leona's, for example, very good, like with a Draven, for example, or with a Lucian. Champions that have really good damage and they want to go in. Then we have Gragas. Gragas, good playmaking potential with the ultimate to knock people back or away. Then the third ability to knock them back. Rakan with the taunt and with the AoE knockup, very good. Nautilus has a root on his passive, has the hook to catch people, the second multi makes him tanky, the third ability slows people down, and then the ultimate can knock people up as well. So as you guys can see, these champions are just really solid and really strong. Nami is a very good playmaking support, great at peeling and buffing people up, giving them healing, I think healing and attack speed, right? Then the bubble, obviously, to catch people, or to catch people as a peeling tool or as a playmaking tool. Same for the ultimate, knocking multiple people up as a peeling tool or as an initiation tool. Morgana with the binds and with the spell sheet and with the ultimate is very good utility wise in team fights, but I feel like she is kind of weak in the early game. Jenna, after the rework and after the nerfs, I just feel like she doesn't provide as much utility as she used to. Her shielding isn't as good as it was beforehand, and her ultimate just doesn't heal as much as beforehand, but having 2 tornadoes is obviously still nice. Ashe, utility wise, not that bad with the ultimate to catch people, so decent playmaker. Sona scales very good into the late game, providing a lot of healing and shielding, and the ultimate to stun multiple people, but her early game is pretty weak. Ornn is a champion that is kind of kill reliant or team reliant, that they need to win for him to have gold, otherwise he isn't as tanky because he's item reliant, very similar to Sett and Swain. These champions are very item reliant as supports in comparison to their counterpart when they're playing in lane. Sett has really good playmaking potential and is tanky. Same for Swain, who is very weak in the early game though, but when he gets into the late game, has items, his crowd control and his beefiness is pretty damn good. Braum is a solid tank and is good at countering poking champions. He can be good as well, like when people are trying to initiate and you wanna disengage with the ultimate, or you can also initiate with your ultimate yourself. But I just feel like he isn't as good as the other tanky supports. That's just my personal opinion. Then we have Senna support. Senna support is also good, but very team reliant depending on the team composition. But yeah, she provides really good utility and has a lot of damage as well. Seraphine is too scaling and weak in the early game, but her ultimate, one good ultimate can carry a game. I think Blitzcrank is kinda too coin flippy there, where I would say you need to be very good with your aim to catch the right target, and you also have to hit the target. And then for Shen is a very cheesy champion and item reliant at the same time, so you want to win or dominate in the early game, going in with taunt and trying to get the kill. But overall he's not that strong in comparison and he needs items, but obviously taunt is good and ultimate for the shielding. But yeah, that's good for the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys can tell me your opinion about the patch, what you guys think about the tier list as well, and I see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.